the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts.
So Matt Rule is already let go. Obviously, we have a ton of other NFL head coaches that are on the hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
So, posing the question, Drew, what other NFL head coach is on the hot seat this season?
I hate that you put me first because I forgot my list. All right.
How about you give me your top two?
Well, I would say Nathaniel Hackett, but I know he was one of yours, and I think that's just the most obvious one right now, like obviously with Matt Rule being gone. So I'll go with, first, I'll say Ron Rivera. Listen, it doesn't look like the Commanders are getting any better. It doesn't look like they're progressing. Obviously, Carson Wentz being down does affect it. Now, Tyler Heineke starts playing a little well. That might save Rivera to the end of the year, and possibly, put Wentz on the bench for the rest of the year. So that's something that I'm definitely very interested in watching because Heineke looked decent last year. I thought he was pretty good. So we'll see. But another player another coach that I think a lot of people really, I guess, are not thinking about, but I think is almost a done deal that he's going to be gone, is Frank Reich.
It's a good one.
I am surprised at what is going on. I know the argument is, well, he's had a different quarterback every single year and blah, blah, blah. And listen, I get it. It's hard to win like that. But this is also a guy who is vouching for all of these quarterbacks that he has brought in. So they could have re-signed Carson Wentz. Did they want to? No, it didn't work out. So he went with another quarterback. Went with Matt Ryan. So far, not great. He had one really phenomenal game so far. In how many they've played? I think they've played 5 or 6.
5 games, I think.
Okay, so it hasn't been great. And unfortunately, that defense, they lost their defensive coordinator to the Chicago Bears, and that defense doesn't look the same. I mean, they're not fantastic. They're not these just beast of a defense to stop how they were able to stop the run or able to stop the pass or whatever. They haven't been great. So I think Frank Reich, unfortunately, is probably going to be gone. And I do think that Ron Rivera is more than likely. It doesn't matter how this goes, unless on the off chance that the Commanders make the playoffs. I think he's done. I don't think it matters how many games they end up winning. If they don't make it to the playoffs, I think he's pretty much done. And another coach I will bring up, just because I actually have been really on this for a couple of years, but haven't been bold enough to say it. But Matt LaFleur, I haven't seen it with him. To me, I always questioned it when you watch the Packers and they constantly went to Devontae Adams, and it was like, okay, there's a time and a place to go to Devontae Adams, but you can't go, you're going to him 20 times. Everyone knows you're going to him. He just got lucky that he had Aaron Rodgers with him as well. And now he still has Aaron Rodgers, but he has no receiver. Even if they get like a Chase Claypool or a DJ Moore or an OBJ, I don't think that this offense is all that great. Like, I think Aaron Rodgers is literally the lifeboat of the Packers offense. If it's not for Aaron Rodgers, we've already seen Jordan Love. He hasn't improved 1 inch since he's gotten to the league. And at first I was like, oh man, this guy is a complete bust. But now you look back on it and you're kind of like, maybe LaFleur is a bust. Maybe he's not good at developing guys, because for some reason they draft receivers in the 3rd and 4th round and they never develop that great. I mean, the only thing you have is Aaron Rodgers, who kind of helps them out. And then you talk about the Jordan Love thing. Their offensive line is constantly injured, and you can say, well, okay, that's not head coaching, but the head coach kind of usually goes with the trainer, And
Mhm.
the training, I just think the staff really needs a complete overhaul. The defense hasn't looked great either. I think they're probably the best position or best unit on this team is that defense, to be honest. And I don't think
Yeah.
it's that good. So Matt
Mhm.
LaFleur, I don't think will be fired because I do think the Packers are going to be in a playoff push. But
Mhm.
Ron Rivera, I do think is going to be fired. Frank Reich, I do think is going to be fired unless he lights a fire under the Colts.
Yeah.
But LaFleur, I think, is something to watch for.
Yeah. I'll give you a couple of them. So I've already earlier this year have said Cliff Kingsbury, I think he's gone. Clearly they didn't. I mean, they had a pretty good Thursday night football win against the Saints on Thursday, of course. But, majority of the season, they don't look very good. They don't look ready to play. They don't look organized. So I think Kingsbury, he's gone. They're going to choose Kyler over Kingsbury, which I think is rightfully so. I think Kyler Murray he doesn't need a buddy. He needs someone that's going to set him down, talk to him like a professional, and get the best out of him. Sometimes players need that. I don't want to call it an alpha in a negative way, but they need that solid leader that's going to call them out and put them in the best position and better them. I don't know if Kingsbury is that coach, in my opinion. So I won't say Kingsbury. I have Ron Rivera as well. I'm agreeing with you and Nathaniel Hackett. If the Broncos don't improve, I think he's out. But there's two coaches that I'll give you. And one of them is only contingent on if they don't make the playoffs. I'll only say that. If they get in the wild card or make a playoff spot, I think this coach is safe. But if they miss the playoffs, I think that this coach is out. And that's Brandon Staley of the Chargers. And here's why, is because he arguably has the best defense he's ever had since he's coached this team. He has arguably one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the entire league. You can say it is the offense. Maybe it is Justin Herbert not willing to throw the ball, which, our resident Charger fans from the back seat, they always point out Justin Herbert, for some reason, just doesn't feel comfortable throwing the ball down the field. I just think, though, that Brandon Staley is on the hot seat. Like, if he does not get them into the playoffs, I think all of his going for it on fourth downs are going to be all for nothing. And, he lost a pretty big game against the Jaguars earlier that kind of epitomizes like what he was trying to do. And this team, in all intents and purposes, should make the playoffs. And a lot of people had them potentially being in the Super Bowl. That's how highly touted this team is. But I think if he doesn't get in the playoffs, it's because the next coach I think that's going to take over before it's all said and done is Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton would walk through that door in a heartbeat because his old offensive coordinator, Lombardi, is on the Chargers. And I think Sean Payton, having basically all those weapons that the Chargers do, he would fit right in there, in my opinion. And that's my personal belief on why I think that's all going to take place. Again, this is all contingent on if Staley does not get them into the playoffs. If he gets them into the playoffs, that plan just kind of goes out the door. My second one, and I'm actually kind of sad and I say this just because I'm a huge fan of this coach, but it'd be Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, he's had a non-losing season his entire coaching career, but he has missed the playoffs multiple seasons. And last season was only different because the Raiders knocked the Chargers out, which catapulted the Steelers to get into a late season run. But nevertheless, though, I think in the 16 seasons Mike Tomlin has coached the Steelers, they have missed the playoffs more than half that time. Granted, he has not gotten them in a losing record, but I heard an analyst say this, that Steeler fans don't like mediocre. They don't like just enough. You're supposed to get into the playoffs. You need to compete for championships. So to just be 500 and say that that's a successful season is not good enough. And I tend to agree. Now, I don't know who the Steelers would have to come in for them, but I have a feeling, though, that with the whole Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, the whole fiasco that's going on, I think that's going to kind of play a part into it just because, Mike Tomlin is known to get the best out of players, but this team doesn't look like it's hitting its full potential offensively or defensively. And I know defensively they're injured right now, but it just doesn't seem like that they are at the level that Tomlin usually gets them to, and I'm not sure what that is. I know that Brian Flores is now on the team, so he's helping in that aspect, but I don't know how much longer Steeler Nation could accept just a 500 winning season, but no playoff berth and be okay with that. So it saddens me because I'm a huge fan of Mike Tomlin, but I think that he's unfortunately on the hot seat if something doesn't come out of it. And the way that his Steelers are playing, I don't even know if they're going to be 500. I hope so, just because that's normally what happens. But if they don't get into the playoffs and they're under 500, I don't know how much longer Tomlin lasts. So,
yeah, unfortunately, I'm with you. Some good ones. I mean, Brandon Staley. Listen, I think they're going to get into the playoffs, so that's kind of why I didn't want to say his name. But I agree with you. I mean, some of his decision making has been questionable. Hasn't been fantastic. I mean, it's been one of those things where you're kind of like, I mean, I guess. And I think he's benefiting from the team that he has, which he has not really assembled. It's really the GM who's kind of assembled this and is like, all right, just make that work. And the head coach is like, I'm kind of in over my head here. So, which, I mean, the game against the Broncos, I mean, they should have mopped the floor with them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Now, that Broncos defense was playing lights out. There's no question about that. But no way should that have been a 16-13 game in overtime. Like, it should not have done that. I mean, Herbert is way too good. And that defense, I mean, that defense shut down the Broncos. I mean, there was no question about that, but we'll see. I mean, I maybe Staley is not confident in Herbert, or maybe he's not a really good guy and like trying to get Herbert to take that next step. I don't know what's going on, but it is a little concerning. So I agree with you on that. And then the Mike Tomlin thing, yeah, I think it's been great for a lot of these years. They've been, if not in the playoffs, like they have a chance every year. And it just the last, few years it's been this team. I mean, last year they barely got in, and it was just because the Raiders did not want to let the Chargers in.
Yeah.